Hello.
Hi. Welcome to our podcast today. There is only two of us today. It is Shanna and
Olivia.
you guys. We started a recording and my 2-year-old hopped on my lap and she moved my computer and knocked it off. And so Olivia was left stranded by herself for like a couple. So anyways, we are re-recording this today. Super fun. Thank goodness we were only like 9 minutes in, but you get to hear me reread this intro, which is going to be so much fun.
You did great the last. Hey, that was your practice round, actually, if you think about it. So, yeah.
The second time and not the first. Hey. Hi, and welcome to the Miles with Moms podcast. We are your hosts, Shanna
and Olivia. Sorry.
Moms Who Run by Moms Who Run. Our goal with this podcast is for mother runners everywhere to never have to run alone or feel alone in their mom life struggles or journey to accomplishing big goals. Because guess what? Taking time to take care of yourself and to chase big goals as a mom is not only okay, it is awesome for you and the lessons you're teaching your children. On this pod, you'll hear the four of us talk about the real or even ridiculous going on in our lives. We will also share training tips to help you be your best on and off the road. Sometimes all four of us will be on and sometimes not because, you know, mom life. And sometimes we swear. So be careful if you have little ears around. We are so excited to have you join us in our Mother Runner Gab Fest. And real quick, we want to reach as many mother runners as possible. So please take a minute to rate, review, subscribe, and or share this podcast. If connect with us on Instagram at the handle of Miles with Mom Podcast. Now let's get to the show. All right, Olivia, let's get through. Let's recap again of like kind of what you've been up to this past week since the last episode. I was the last episode, so I haven't. Well, I've seen you. Yeah.
Honestly, I was gonna say our first 9 minutes that we recorded is very similar to when we send each other voice notes and we're like, oh man, I just recorded like a 10-minute long voice note and I deleted it. And so that happens to us quite a bit, honestly. Yeah.
Nothing new. Nothing new here, other than the fact that we're not recording for like how many people to watch or listen to.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Exactly. So, we were just talking actually about that it's taper week. We are finally, so we signed up for this race in June. We had finished our last race and then we signed up for this one. Shanna was like, I kind of want to do CIM again. And then I was like, oh, that's great for you. And then she was like, you should do it too. And I was like, okay. And so, yeah, but it just seemed so far away at the time. Like we had 6 months and all that stuff. And then, you know, this is my first training cycle with a coach. I was self-coached before. And so this whole experience, like I feel a lot more calm, I think, than I normally do before race week. Like I'm very like, it is what it is at this point versus I feel like when you don't have a coach, like taper week, you can kind of add on extra miles here and there, and versus having like someone else have a bird's eye view on it and stuff. So especially because I feel like before grandma's, I took out a lot of my nerves on all of my runs that I was doing that week, you know? So yeah.
That's a good point. I never thought about that, like how different your like taper weeks would be, because you're pretty much like you're in control of your training. So it's not like you like have somebody watching you to see. Because I'll tell you guys, like when I did my grandma's marathon build, that taper week, we were traveling to grandma's marathon like that whole week before. And I like modified my last workout and my coach literally hit me up like 3 times. And he was like, how did that like 4 by 6 minutes go? How did that 4 by 6 minutes go? I was like, I'm not going to respond to this until after the race because I didn't do it. And anyways, he knew I didn't do it. And that's why he asked so many times. But luckily, you know, I'm hard and I was able to say, hey, and maybe it was the workout that I modified. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
exactly.
It's so different with a coach. I never even like thought about that. Like that you really are kind of like tied down to like commitment to like stick to something.
Yeah. That's a huge part. I mean, it's a huge part of all of it. It's kind of like I was never, when I was self-coached, I was never worried about like accountability or skipping a workout. Like that's not how I function, but definitely the accountability to these workouts has been, and because especially the ones that you don't really want to do, or where you want to switch like a Tuesday, Friday, switch those around. Like there's a reason that they put them like that. Like, and I'm all about like switching your long run to a Wednesday or whatever, but sometimes it's like you just have to think about like, oh, he put this one here. And yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of ups and downs like emotionally through this one. And Shanna has been on the other end of a lot of that, where I'm like, but here we are, and I feel like I'm cool as a cucumber at this. I mean, for me, cool as a cucumber, which is still a little bit neurotic, but that's okay.
I love that phrase.
So.
Cool as a cucumber. I'll have to start using that more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's what I aspire to be, just calm. And I feel like after a couple of our interview episodes, because I've done a couple of them now, and just listening to these people, like their approach to training, and I'm like, I want to be like that. And they are. That's like how I would explain some of these people. Like they are just cool as a cucumber, like it is what it is type of thing. And I love that approach. So, like, it's just refreshing.
Yeah. I feel like the best races come out of like having that mindset too. Like I feel like you just roll into it just feeling like, I don't like, no pressure on you. You just go out there, you treat it like it's a long run workout, and then obviously you're killing it the whole time. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of power to like just not allowing yourself to get so wrapped up in the number. And it's so hard. Like I think about it often too. I'm like, oh, I just need to not care about that stuff. But it's like you train is to hit those times. But it is like, I feel like a lot of these people that have that approach or that mentality in their training cycles, they just like, they thrive and they kill it every time because they don't have that pressure. Like, there's to it.
I know. I think so too. I feel like with grandma's marathon, I think that's what happened. Is like what didn't happen was I was just like, this is the number, and I was like very focused, but I didn't know even what the number was, versus like the marathon I'd run before that was LA Marathon, and I was just so la-di-da about it. Like I kind of just knew I wanted to finish. I knew I wanted to enjoy the course. And I ran the whole thing being like, could I talk to someone during this? Like I wouldn't have been able to like finish full sentences and stuff, but I really wanted to like enjoy it and like being very present during it. And I feel like I can name every corner of that course, versus grandma's. I feel like I just kind of have flashes of it because I was like so wrapped up in what was happening. And also I went out way too fast. So when I saw that half marathon time, I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And I was like, you only have 90 minutes left. Enjoy the course. And I did not, I mean, I like enjoyed, like it was rainy. I love rain and things like that. And I was like, I'm in Minnesota. I love Minnesota. I enjoyed those kinds of things, but I wasn't out there being like, I'm having the best time of my life, which is like my approach to marathoning. Like, I love it. You love the race. Like that's the whole thing about it, So yeah, there's definitely something to that, where it's like not being so locked in on the number, because that's kind of like what we've talked about so much, is being within your fitness level. Like you're supposed to just run within like where you can be enjoying it. You're not supposed to be maxing out the whole time. Well, honestly, our bodies will not let us max out the whole time.
I
Mile
wish.
18.
Fly a lot
I know.
faster.
I know.
I'm trying to teach my body to go above like 85% in a marathon. I don't know why it won't, but
same.
lessons from you, Olivia.
No, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll chat after Sunday and see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, pretty much this episode, you guys, we're doing, they're kind of just like special episodes, I think, for this month. We weren't able to all get together just because of the holidays. All four of us have just such crazy schedules. And we're on 2 different time zones too. So me and Olivia, we're here in Utah, on different sides of it. And then Whitney and Trisha, they're on Eastern Standard Time, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it's a little bit of a juggle. Like we tried throwing around sometimes at like 9 p.m. at night for them, and we're like, that's not gonna work for moms. So yeah, we decided just to do just kind of like a hot seat episode where we just like ask each other questions so you guys could get to know us as your co-host on an individual level and just put some fun like content out there about us. So I do want to start with the first question with Olivia, just
Oh.
because when I met her, I was like, this girl is so freaking fast. Who is she and where did she come from? And how did I not know her? Because where I live it's St. George, Utah, you guys. It is small town. Like, mind you, I grew up in California. I had a graduating class of like 2,000 plus people. I didn't even know. I went to hair school with one girl that graduated with me. I didn't even know who she was. Like, how big my world was growing up in California. And so moving to St. George, everybody's related to everybody. They ask you your last name to know who you're related to. And you kind of just like never leave here. They just like, it's like generational here. And so
Hmm.
meeting Olivia and just being like, who is this girl? And she's fast. And how do I not know her? Like, cause this town is so small. And getting to know her story was just so inspiring to me. So I want to start with you because you're hopping into the next marathon, but like, what even made you want to run marathons? Because like you weren't a runner your whole life, so you need to give that backstory of how you even got into running, and like your progress with your marathon and why the marathon distance. Like that is the craziest distance in my mind that somebody could attach to. Like, why not a 5K? Why was it a marathon?
That's such a good question because I wish that I could. Man, I wish I could go back to like 25-year-old Olivia and see what I was thinking. I think so. My background is all in ballet, and I think the only thing I ever associated running with was burning calories. Like I definitely remember. So I used to live in Washington D.C. and I danced at the Washington Ballet, and I remember I had this cute little apartment and cute little neighborhood, and I remember trying to run 3 miles through it, and it was like I could not. I just couldn't run, and I was like, "How am I such a good dancer?" And I like cannot run. But that was like being 16 years old. I was like the person who never ran a mile in high school or in middle school, anything like that. Like I would definitely sit on the bench or just not go to gym class or whatever. So um, when I started running, it was probably, I don't know. I definitely think I was probably going through like relationship things. And it was like, I noticed that once I slowed down, because my very first run was an hour long and I think I only went 3 miles. But once I slowed down, and I knew that this was like the ultimate me time. And I didn't have kids yet, but I didn't take my dog or anything. This was like just me getting out there and doing it. And so I signed up for a half marathon because my friend, no, it was my husband's friend was like, "Hey, Irvine half marathon is happening. You guys should sign up." And my husband was like, "No, I'm not doing a half marathon." But I thought I will totally do one. And so I got on this little training plan and I used my Peloton app. They had just come out with like outdoor runs, and there was so much information like being thrown at me with like what are striders, what's the difference between an interval, like long intervals and hit intervals. And I was like, this is like so much more, like it's just so much more information than I ever expected. And I really really enjoy that because I really enjoy things where I can learn like physically versus like yeah, sitting down in a classroom is just, that was never my jam. And so anyway, I feel like that's what like got my running bug going. So that half marathon was like the first race that was introduced to me. And then when I finished though, my first sentence that I said was I could do double that. Like I was filled with endorphins. Like I was just like I was on such a high, and I'm telling you, I had no idea what time I finished. People were like, "What's her goal?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like cuz I didn't know what was good, what was bad, or like I didn't know what would impress anybody else. I just knew that I finished a half marathon and that was impressive to me. And I
Yeah.
did have it. I have like this like long bucket list thing, and it's like, go to Italy and go to these restaurants. I had this long bucket list thing that I wrote when I was like 16 years old. But one of the things on there is run a half marathon. It was just like I think I probably got it from Pinterest or something like that. And so it was like, so once I found, and then I saw that Salt Lake had a full marathon. And, I just didn't know. I think the whole like idea of ignorance being bliss is so true. I didn't know the course, didn't know the weather, didn't know what shoes to wear. And yeah. And so I didn't know anything about training. I knew I had to do a long run at some point. And so I think my longest run was 14 miles at the time. And I remember going to work though and being like, I just ran 14 miles. Oh, yeah, it's going to be hard to lift that stretcher. And like, it was just one of those things like I couldn't believe I had run 14 miles. And so I finished that marathon and I remember not feeling on top of the world. And well, because that was when the words like Boston qualifier started slipping in. And because they give you that little printout, and I was like, I saw other people getting one that said Boston qualified. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? So yeah, I was running a call with one of the firefighters in Vegas, and he was like, "Oh, my wife's not running Mount Charleston. If you want to buy her bib." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "It's downhill." And I was like, "Downhill? I'm gonna go get my Boston qualifier."
Yeah.
And I ran that marathon 2 weeks later, and I did not get my Boston qualifier. So it was like all of a sudden there was like this new thing to chase, and I think the idea of that was so neat. And I was like on this lone venture. I had no other running friends. Nobody wanted to talk about running, and I think just it was like this dangling carrot in front of me where I was like, I have all these goals I get to chase. And so there was just something about when you finish a race that was so addicting. And also that when you go to races, you ride the bus up and you meet other people that are crazy like you, and you can talk about running and all this stuff. And that was so addicting because I didn't have friends in real life. Oh no, someone has some drama. What happened? So, your belly hurts? She's totally faking it. This is really cute. Okay, give me a second, okay? Come here. So, anyway, that was kind of how it happened. That same year though that I ran those first couple marathons was the same year that I got pregnant with my son. So,
yeah.
yeah. And then the whole thing had to be put on pause, which is just crazy. And so, yeah, when running postpartum happened, I thought I was so done with the marathon distance, like especially just not having anybody else that was interested in doing it with me, like cuz also on Instagram I'd see people out on group runs and all this stuff, and it was like the St. George running bubble. I could not penetrate. I just could not get into it. What? But okay,
So
1 second, okay?
what marathon was it that you like finally reached your BQ?
My very first. Okay, honey. Give me just 1 second, okay? Thank you. She said she does not want to sit on my lap. My first BQ was Chicago of 2023. So, yeah, I had postpartum. My first marathon was San Diego Rock and Roll, and I paced the 4:25, and I just wanted to be familiar with the distance, and I enjoy every second of that race. I enjoyed it. Was so wonderful, and it was my first time pacing a marathon. And then I signed up for Beaver Canyon, and anybody who's ever heard me talk about that was my least enjoyable experience. It was just terrible. I forgot fuel, and so I took fuel at like mile 19 from this girl that was handing it out. I don't know if it was even for runners or if it was just for someone that she knew, but I was like, "Can I have that? I'm so desperate." And it was downhill. So I thought I had it in the bag. Like I was like, "I've got this." But I did not got this. So I missed my BQ again. And so I was like, and so at that point, because it was like my or second like known attempt at a qualifier, that I was like, I'm always inspired by people that have to try 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, like those stories. And so I was like, you're just gonna be one of those people that has had to try so many times. It's just this will be just part of your trajectory. It doesn't mean, and because the 26 miles did not scare me. It was the fact that like, what am I doing wrong? Like, where am I going wrong in my training? And so anyway, I buckled down for 8 more weeks. And then Chicago, the course, it's just, there's like some kind of magic on that course. It was I was just filled with so much adrenaline. And I met these amazing girls at the start, and they were just so cute, and everyone was just friends instantly. And so just went out and I had a great time. I didn't wear headphones. I was like enjoying every single corner of that course. And so yeah, that was my first qualifier, and it felt so good. It just felt so good. And then that's where my mindset changed of like, it's just like anything is possible.
Yeah.
Boston does not have to be this like end all be all. Like where else, what else can I do? What else, like what else is possible? So yeah, that was this crazy thing. And so but after Chicago, I was a little burnt out on the marathon just because like that year it had been like so many back-to-back ones is it kind of what it felt like. So yeah, and then I did the whole like where you negotiate with yourself and you're like, I'm only gonna run a half and I want a PR in the half. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I signed up for a marathon like not that long after. So yeah.
It's like
So it was
you
only
have
in yeah. So sorry, that was super long-winded, but basically just it was like I just kind of just kept I felt like this like lone wolf, and I was
to.
like, you're just going to keep your head down, you're going to keep trying, you're going to keep doing, and if no one wants to hear about your running, that's fine. You do this for you, and that's fine. And like yeah, I think it all changed after Chicago where I was like, you're not this lone wolf, you're running with 48,000 other people, you know. Yeah. So I think that's wild. But yeah, so that's how the marathon happened. And I don't know. I just like, that's why I just feel like I want to tell people all the time, like, just go out and run to enjoy it. Try your first race without putting a time on it because, like, that feeling of where you just don't know any better, it's so freeing. Like, it just is, you know?
It's so true. I mean, I even felt that with my first half marathon, which was a bad bathroom experience. But I still look back at that time and I was like, 13 miles was, I didn't realize how far that was. And I was like, I'm going to go out at this pace. And I burned like at mile 7. I was like, I'm over. This is stupid. I'm going to go find my husband. Like, this is the dumbest thing. And I didn't feel or anything. And it's so crazy. Like, just the ignorance is bliss. Like, it really, like, I truly had no idea what I had signed up for, but it was like almost like it was beneficial in my favor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I came back and decided to do one again a couple years later, and it's so wild. But
Yeah.
no, that's so crazy that you went into that mindset of like, I just, if I can do this, I can double it. And then like now to for our audience that may not know, like your last year grandma's marathon was a 3:04, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're aiming for a sub 3. We don't know where exactly that'll fall, but it's a sub 3 potential there, which is just in a couple days. And I think it's so crazy to see where you started. Like, you started from somebody that was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna take. I just am out here running. I can double the distance. To now you're like, you're knocking on barriers that a lot of people train for years to get,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's crazy. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. And I think like if people, when they hear that, I hope they hear that question and are like, I want to know if I can double the distance,
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because sometimes I say things like I was disappointed in my time or like I'm frustrated in certain ways, but it's because I really feel like I'm just getting started and like it would be the same if I was putting out a 3:45. Like I would still want to progress. It's just that these are the numbers that I have right now and I'm surprised by them every single time. Like I can't believe it's happening. It's so weird when I finish, like when I do a mile, even in the sixes, I'm like, who is this? Because I do workouts sometimes and I'll do even a 7:30 and a like mile and I'm like, this is crazy. Like I cannot believe it because I'm so used to like I still look back all the time and it's like it's not that many years ago or even last year like I would run an 11-minute mile and I would feel so good at the end of that and so I want to remember that I felt that great and I still feel that great, because it's really about the distance, and so um like, that's why I feel like I always want to tell people, just be patient with your progress, or be patient with the numbers that you set, because like a 1 minute PR is still a PR. And so I never want it to come across as being selfish for these like massive PRs. It's because I'm just getting started. Like I'm just learning what my running body is even like, which is so crazy. And don't you feel that way too, though? Like, where it's like you've only run 2 marathons and you're in the 2:44 range. Like, don't you feel like I'm just getting started? I'm just learning what these legs are actually capable of?
Yeah, like I definitely, I mean, like I said, I have like people that I see right now that are just killing it. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
this girl that I ran in high school, she just ran a 2:26, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, we used to compete with each other in high school, like neck to neck, like we were the freshman duo. And I look at where she's at, and it makes you so inspired, though. At the same time, you're like, wow, she can get there. Where could I be in 5 to 10 years, you know? But also too, it does, I can see why some people can get so wrapped up in the numbers, because you see that potential and you're like, well, I can do that, but you can't do it now, right? Like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
hard part with the marathon distance, is that it takes time. It takes time to
Mm-hmm.
improve, time to get to those faster paces that our body is probably capable of doing, but it's going to take time. And there's no way to fast track it. And so I kind of get in that trap too, where sometimes I'm like, oh, like I'm doing great and I'm proud of myself, but man, I want to be there. I want to be with them. I want to compete with the best of the
Yeah.
best. And so I think that's kind of where I fall back and forth on too. I feel like every marathon is kind of just like the next stepping stone of where I want to
Mm-hmm.
be. And I have to do this next marathon so I can be that much closer to where I want to be.
Yeah.
But also slowing down. I love that you mentioned that, like just slowing down and just like embracing where you're at and being proud of that and enjoying it, because
Mm-hmm.
like starting this process, like even thinking about a sub 2:44 was like, oh my gosh, like what? Like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I'm just like, I just want to make it across the finish line without dying. Like, how many times I told that to my coach
Yeah.
for my marathon build was like one to me. He was like, you're not gonna die. Like, stop being over.
Yeah.
I literally was like, runs 26 miles, and let alone like at a race pace. Like, that's so
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But now, here we are, and we just keep progressing and we keep chipping away. And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really inspiring to hear your story, like to hear
Oh,
there's so many people that like are just getting going, like especially as new runners in adulthood.
yes, definitely. Yeah, someone actually in our little question box asked, like, what's like, because I am the newest to all of
Yeah.
this, what is the advice that I have? And like, the main thing is that Instagram is going to give you this all or nothing mentality, because you will see everybody out there doing 6 days of running, or 5 days of running, 1 day of cross training, and active recovery. And that's not super realistic to everybody. So even before I had kids, that was not a realistic schedule. I was never going to be able to run for 6 days um, a week, because I was a paramedic. So I was working my schedule was 4 days, 3 days, 4 on, that kind of thing. But 12-hour shifts, so they'd sometimes start at 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 11 a.m. And so you can figure out times to run during that, but sometimes you're just so tired. And so 12-hour shifts, but sometimes you run late calls and things like that. And so I know that we have a lot of moms that are nurses that are in that same boat and things like that. So nurses, doctors, or if you're working retail, you're on your feet all day, that there's this idea that you have to get out and run 6 days a week. And it's not true. I trained for my first marathon doing 3 days, 4 days a week. So every other week it would be 3 days on, and then the next week would be 4 days and stuff. And it wasn't necessarily on purpose, but that was what I was capable of. So just doing what you can and writing out a schedule. Like, I think that helps so much. Just knowing that you have a run coming up is huge. So, and that all at the end of the day just is the word consistency. So like, that's the one thing I can say. If you just keep sticking with it, your body will change so much. Your lungs will be able to breathe better. Like, mile 3 will not seem as hard anymore one day, and it gives back to you so quickly. Like, it might be just after 3 or 4 weeks, which is so crazy to think about. So that's my main advice for anybody who is a newer runner, is just stick with it and don't have that all or nothing. Like if I don't run 6 days a week, yeah, I know, honey. Am I ignoring you? And so it's just, yeah, that's my biggest advice to newer runners. And then also just we talked about the comparison game so much. Um, that's huge. Honestly, I feel like I every day, I mean, I every day I'm like trying to compare myself and then I go, "Oh my gosh, just stop," you know? And that's what we have to do. Enjoy other people's journey as an outside person, but do not put yourself in their shoes because we all have different hurdles that we're jumping over. Like even the people that are unmarried, have no kids, that kind of thing, they have other challenges that they're dealing with. We might just not be aware of it. So, I think that's the like best advice I can give, is just kind of sticking with it and have a plan of some sort, no matter what it is, even if it's 2 days a week. Like that is better than nothing. I always am like, when someone's like, oh, 10 minutes a day won't do anything, I'm like, 10 minutes is better than nothing, you know?
Anything is gonna, and that's like, I relate to that on the strength training side because I spent,
Yes.
out of all my pregnancies back to back, that was the one consistency I had was like just
Mm-hmm.
showing up for 20 to 30 minutes, even 4 times a week. Like I never said 6 times a week because I was like, that's so unrealistic when you have babies. But like 4 times a week, just out of your house, just 20 minutes, like literally will do so much for you, even mentally. Like it's not even so much
Oh,
even
yes.
mentally, And so, yeah, look, I couldn't agree more with you. I think sometimes like we think about these big long goals and we're trying to like bite the whole pie, right? And really like all we need in our current moment is like little bits and pieces of it. Like I did like in the beginning when I first started running, I didn't need 6 times a week like I am right now. I wasn't even marathon training. Like I started with, the half marathon or the 5K even,
Mm-hmm.
just getting a base, like getting some kind of mileage under your feet, even if it's like you said for 10 minutes. It does do a lot of impact with you, like overall, because I feel like then you start learning like your
Mm-hmm.
habit, your routine, and your schedule, and you're able to stack it just a little bit more season after season as you like get used to it.
That's so true. The stacking part of it and that like just seeing what you can handle. Cause I think what we talk a lot about is working within your fitness. Like there will be burnout and you'll get tired if you're doing things like trying to do this 6 days a week and stuff like that. And I've talked about it before too, like that magic number that people get hung up on. When I was still running my only marathon that I had done was a 4:18 and then a downhill 3:53, and I was thinking like I should probably be doing 100 miles a week because that's what other people are doing.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like that's, I mean, like you and I do not hit 100 miles a
Oh,
week currently. You have even tried and it's like you have
yeah.
six children. Like
I can't
it's
even
just
hit
not.
I can't even hit 80, you guys. I tried and I was like, why am I trying to hit this like this number that really doesn't mean anything? Like it's just a number that I thought I needed to hit. And I was like, no, it's not. If you're getting the quality sessions in and for your fitness, right? That's a key phrase. Like
Mhm.
getting the quality sessions and the quality time on your feet for your current fitness, you are doing enough. And I think social media, like you said, that comparison trap can really get you thinking like, oh, I need to be doing what they're doing. I need to be exactly mirroring what they do. But for me, I think I've come to realize, and maybe this might change as I progress in the marathon, but I may be better at a 70-mile week than most people who
Mhm.
are at the same times as me that need 80 to 85 miles. Like, I just think we're also different, and also our stress, like you said, the stress factor of like what our day to day looks like and how we're able to recover. And yeah,
Mhm.
like, just it's not the same. It'll never be the same.
Yeah. I think I think that's so funny. So since we're doing like hot seat
Yeah,
things, and so I always laugh because every time I go for a run with you and we post about it, people ask me about you. And I think people look for this secret sauce that you have of how did she go from no marathons to a marathon training cycle to running your first one was a 2:52, and it's so funny because I feel like you put this big goal out there and then It's like you can't say that you're disappointed with a 252, but at the same time that wasn't what you were going for. And it was like when I first met you, I remember talking to you about this like massive accomplishment. And I think when people ask me about what it's like running with you, I think they're looking for this secret sauce that you have. And it's so funny because you have just such a significant background in running already. It was just you had a break in there with having all of your babies. But you talk a lot about how the body doesn't forget about those paces. So when like when you think about like your 5K, because you were a 5K runner? Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing your 5K to the marathon, like what made you actually want to run the marathon? Because you had done half marathons at that point. What made you be like, you know what, I'm going to go for this 2:45, my first marathon? Like, what was that? Like, where did your thought process actually come from with that?
Yeah, man, I don't even know. Like it sounds crazy looking back on it because I was like, what was I thinking? But I think it goes like ignorance is bliss, right? Like I didn't even know. So okay, so I had finished my half marathon. So mine's like a little God related. So hopefully that doesn't turn anybody off with my story. But I actually had just ran my fourth half or something like that. I ran the Southern Utah half is what I did in 2023. And I had completed that under my coach, who I just had swapped over. I've been using it for like 3 months at this point. And I finished this race and I'm like driving home. I'm kidless. My kids are at home. I'm enjoying like the quietness. I had a great race. Just feeling kind of on top of the world. Like, wow, like, where can I go with my next half? And then all of a sudden I had this thought come to my mind and it was literally like, sign up for a marathon and shoot for a 240. And I was like, whoa, like what? I didn't even know the pace of a 240. I literally like had no idea what the mile pace was for that. I just knew that 240 sounded really fast. And so I went home and I like dismissed this like super quick because I was like, ew, like I never had the desire to run a marathon. It was never on a bucket list. I just like I thought marathoners were like this way the craziest people I know. And I was driving home and I was just wild. This is making me stressed. I don't want this idea. This is awful. And so I put it off for like 2 weeks. I didn't tell anybody. And then all of a sudden I just like it kept getting stronger like every week. It kept getting stronger and stronger. And in the moment, like I was in the middle of mile training. Like my coach was like, well, like, what do you want to do next? And I was like, well, I kind of want to hop in like the track. Like I want to do some speed, it sounds fun. And anyways, and so finally, like 2 weeks into this training, like I'm already doing speed workouts. I was like, coach, I need to tell you the craziest thing. And I don't know if you're going to believe me, but this is like a thought that keeps coming to my mind and I don't know why. And so, this is after I shared it with my husband. My husband's very sporty. He's like, I don't think he understood how fast it was. And he was just like, do it.
Oh, I love that.
And kind of like how my dad was in my running career. He's like, sprint at 2-mile race. But
oh my gosh.
So I reached out and I told my coach because I knew that he understood the marathon distance. Like his wife was a marathoner. She was super fast. And I told him this goal and he was just so like, well, let's do it. Like, and I was like, whoa, what? Like, you're supposed to tell me this is crazy. This makes no sense. And, even though he knew that like I wouldn't get that 240 on my first go around, which I knew I wasn't, that was definitely not like, it was on my radar, but it wasn't like, I'm going to go for a 240 on my first marathon. He just embraced it. He was like, all right, well, we're going to roll right into marathon training. We got to get your base up because, you're just coming back into running. So we got to build that up a little bit, get you used to 2 hour plus runs, which I've never done. A whole new concept, like running for 2 hours, eating, like running for 2 hours was like, hey, why is this like? And so yeah, I did all these like 2 hour plus runs. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was running them like at 8:15 pace, which for me at the time, like that was my easy run, right? But that was fatiguing for me. Like running 16 miles for the first time was like, how am I supposed to run 26 miles if I can't even run 16 at an easy pace? And so yeah, it was just such a big learning process. But I realized like how you felt. Like I came back from each long run with this like runner's high. Like I just did that. Like something I thought my body was never capable of doing. Like it was all of a sudden doing it. and it was addicting. It got so addicting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like that's kind of like what got me into the marathon scene. And then it's like when you have that number in your head, you're like, I gotta get it. Like now that it's
Yeah.
on my mind, I have like, why would a random 240 pop into my head if it's not meant for me, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I think what like sparked that interest. And I think also too, what helps is like if you enjoy the process, which is something I've fallen
Yes.
with endurance.
Yeah,
Just,
that's
you
so
know,
true.
it just makes it easier to stick with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
It's so wild. And then this is like, I mean, this marathon right now, like it's such a big deal. It's because it's kind of like that's kind of the goal you're going for. And so it's like it's here, you know? And that's I think that's so wild, but I think that's what is so special about your story is like cuz dreaming about a marathon is it's like that's the big goal, that's the big dream, and like I think that's what we're trying to do like with this podcast and anybody that we talk to. It's like we have to tell people and we have to tell moms like you do not have to put your dreams on hold just because you have kids. Like your kids don't want to be an excuse. Your
Yeah.
kids don't want to hear when they're, 20 years old, well, I didn't do that because, you were little. You want ballerinas. And our kids don't like they don't want to be our excuses. So, and I think that you embody that so much. Oh, she's gonna try to flip off the bed. We always I'm sorry. She's our honorary co-host here. Here you
Well,
go.
we love it.
So I think and then when I became friends with you, like that was one of the crazy things is I felt like I was safe to say some of the bigger goals that I had out loud because they sounded crazy, right? Like at the time I don't know, I had gotten my 322, but I felt so silly being like, I want to maybe OTQ one day because I mean, it was closer to an hour off of my time at that point. But I felt so safe being able to say that because I was like, she has massive goals too. And
Yeah.
it was like we got to finally just talk and dream a little bit together. And it was like these things aren't actually that far off. It's just more about being patient. And I think that's so neat. And yeah, I always say I want to shout it from the rooftops. I want people to feel like they are safe to have those big dreams too, that it's not that far off. So if like a number pops into your head, and it doesn't have to be a 240, like it
Yeah.
can be literally a 6-hour marathon. I just want to run one.
It could be faster than a 240, right? Like that. No, I
Mhm.
totally agree. I think what's the worst that's gonna happen if you go for it?
Mhm. Yeah.
You try again, you try again, you try again, but like your life is still being bettered by chasing that than not, right? Like I feel like
Mhm.
even if you never achieve it, like I told myself, like even if I never get that goal time, like the fact that I tried a distance that terrified me, it grew me in
Mhm.
so many other ways as a person and as a mom, like how I view my kids and when they do hard things and that are scary for them, like I'm doing it as an adult. It just teaches you so many quality character traits that like it's always beneficial to chase a goal. Like it's
Yes, yeah.
never not, you know?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be the marathon even. It can be a 50K or I mean it could be any even I think my ultra that I it's not an ultra. My trail race that I did was like I think it only ended up being 9 miles. But I'm just saying like it could be anything that even if it just scares you a little bit that it's good. Like I feel like there's a lot of information about there about motherhood and that this is the season of life you're in and it's like you have to say no to plans, you have to say no to things, you have to we don't get to shower, we don't get to wash our hair and things like that, and it's like that shouldn't be it though. Like we are moms and we do best when if we take care of ourselves, we take care of our kids and we take care of our significant other or whoever is around our moms or dads and things like that. And so like this idea that I think that's also something we connected on was like there's this narrative about motherhood that's out there that's like I have this one child or these kids that are just so hard and so I have to put my life on hold, and that's crazy. I feel like I'm more myself. I feel like I'm putting all of the things I want like so much less on hold because I have kids. Like I want to do them because of them, you know? And I think they're a big part of my why. Like, I don't, but I also say a lot of times, you know, like, yes, they are my why, but at the same time, like, I like when I cross that finish line, that's for me. That was all for me. That's no one gets to take that away. And I like that we're seeing a lot of things about, you know, when people get proposed to and stuff like that at finish lines. I like that people are like, maybe she wanted to cross the finish line and not, and like have her moment, you know? And I'm like, that's true. Cause I'm
Yes.
always like, that's such a cute thing. But then I'm like, she did want her moment. She crossed a marathon finish line. You know, because it's something that you do for you, and like no one can take that feeling away from you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make you selfish too, to like have something for yourself. Like, I think you're teaching your kids like a very valuable lesson. Like, you can be
Mm-hmm.
a really great present mom, because you are so present. Like, you are you have no choice but to be so present. And I love that about you. Like, you put like your kid is always on this podcast, and I love that. Like, it is just a part of every part of your day. And so it is okay to also show that, like, hey, this is mom's 2 hour plus time to be able to
Mm-hmm.
run for herself for this 26.2 miles because you trained so hard for it. Like, I think as
Mm-hmm.
parents, we feel like we have to share every little minute of our time with our children, which most of us
Mm-hmm.
do for the most part. But
Yeah.
that's okay to give ourselves that like written excuse to say, hey, like, you can have that hour by yourself, or you can
Mm-hmm.
have a race moment for you and be proud of it for yourself, you know?
Yeah. When my babies were little, like little, I would always I'd have to always run at noon, and I always was like, cuz that was when they both napped. I had them on the same nap schedule, and I always had something in my calendar that was my run time. And if anybody ever invited me to lunch, I was like, "No, I'm busy. I have a meeting," or "I'm busy." I was like, I don't have to explain myself. It was my time. And I would feel bad because I was like, oh, I should really make time for other, my friends and stuff. But I was like, I'm available the whole rest of the day. I'll bring my kids with me. I don't care. I know that this was my time. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, and if anybody ever wonders why I trail off, sometimes it's because I'm trying to finish a thought, but my kids are asking me questions. I even just changed a diaper while doing this. So, because she was like whining about it, I was like, well, there is going to be a diaper change on this podcast right now. And that's mom life.
I love it.
Oh
All
my
right,
gosh.
to one of these other questions I'm probably gonna get.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, sit my lap. Okay, it's somebody asked the question. I think this is a good one for you. Best tips to stay motivated on the treadmill for long runs. You've done a
Ooh.
lot of those.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? Um, Best tip to stay motivated. Um, honestly, I think motivation it's like that classic phrase of like motivation can come and go, but discipline should always be there. I think treadmills they that rhythm and that sound and just the beating of it under your feet, it can get so old, and I understand that. But at the same time, like, I have this phrase that I repeat it to myself all the time, and it's how people always say practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. It's not. It's practice. Oh my gosh, I know I forgot it because I just said practice makes perfect so many times. Um, it's basically like practice makes a habit. I'll think of it in just a second. But if I'm on the treadmill, and like say you have a long run and it's an hour plus, um, so that that's the moment where things start to settle in and you start to feel tired and exhausted. So that's where your practice starts to come in. So you're doing a long run, obviously, like maybe because you really love long runs, but it's probably because you have a race of some sort coming up. This is like the time where you practice the things that happen during a race. You will get mentally tired, you'll want to stop, and that's where you start to practice the things that you tell yourself, like, you have done harder things than this. You have survived 100% of your bad days. You've survived 100% of your bad runs. Like, you practice saying things like that. You have to do things like form checks. And the motivation that happens after you want to get off of a treadmill, it comes from like a deep fire inside of you to get those miles done. Because once it's done, it feels so good. Like it's just so worth it because you just did something that is so above average, you know? So, like the treadmill miles can seem long, but find something that you really enjoy that, if your book is not, like, say you're listening to an audiobook and your book is not keeping you entertained, switch to something that will. Like find a documentary, listen to something, like maybe get into crime podcasts. Like a cliffhanger, because it's like, oh, if I listen to one more episode, listen to our podcast. Hmm? And it's just one of those things where it's like the just have the discipline, think of your form, think of your mental attitude, think of or your mental strength, what is your attitude like? It's all of those things that happen during a race. That's hour 2 of a marathon, I mean of a treadmill run,
Yeah.
and so I just think it's super important. That's where you start to I wish I could think of what I tell myself every single day, because I'm on the treadmill every single day, and it's practice makes it's like a habit, but it starts with me, and I don't know why I can't think of it, but here we are. So that's my main thing that I would tell anybody, is that all the things that make treadmill running hard are also the things that can make a race hard. And so it's a great time to practice. But honestly, getting onto the treadmill is the hardest part. Once it's started, convince yourself 5 more minutes, a quarter of a mile more, go 1 more mile. This is going to go by so fast. If you're running a 10-minute mile, you're breaking it. It's so easy to break that up and be like, okay, 10 more minutes, make a phone call. It's a great way to practice like your conversation pace. And yeah, I'm sure that person on the other end would appreciate the thudding in the back. My poor mom has to listen to that all the time. Yeah.
No, I think those
Yeah.
are great tips. Like, I thankfully I don't do as much as I had in my first marathon build, but I feel like every time I did had to hop on the treadmill, it was just like telling myself like, this is legit. This is real. I think
Mm-hmm.
that was my biggest struggle with treadmill running is I had a coach that wasn't really a big fan of it, and then I had a coach that was like, "Well, I don't care as long as you have 50% of each. You should be fine. It
Mm-hmm.
should all feel the same."
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like changing my mindset, like, oh, like this does count, like this does work, this
Mm-hmm.
is still adding up, and yeah, because I feel like we hear so much garbage on there. I mean, you got it. Like, you got it from a
Oh yeah.
stranger. It's like, oh, Instagrammer, you're not a marathon, you're an Instagrammer. And it's like, what? Like, what makes somebody an Instagrammer by running 20 plus miles on a treadmill? Like, I'm sorry,
Right.
insane.
It is. I think the idea of, I mean, there's so much information out there about how treadmills can be beneficial. I actually, yesterday, we had beautiful weather and I opted for the treadmill. I mean, for me, a lot of it is that we're down to the nitty gritty. I've got my neighborhood itself is very flat. And so I needed hills. So
Yeah.
I just opted for the treadmill, and I did have a couple episodes of Law and Order that I watched. So, Whitney's mom, let's chat. And no, it's definitely, it's crazy that the idea would be that it doesn't add up the same. And I wish I could print all of my side by side data to show how much it does. Like, I'm excited for whatever happens with this um marathon on Sunday, because I have done over 50% of my mileage on a treadmill, and
So
I've just been in like, so it's been a really hard season. Like, we went from having summertime and we were like at the pool every day having the best time, to now it's like it's winter. I moved. I live forever far away. Like, it's just been a really weird season. I'm with my kids all the time.
I
Like, there
know.
is no reprieve.
Mhm.
And, so it's been a weird season. So it's been a lot of treadmill miles. And I'm excited to just prove again, because I do hear it all the time of like, do you feel like the treadmill, or like, even I love when people ask me like, can you like, what's the reassurance that you have that the treadmill pays off? And I'm like, it's the fact that I can go to the track and whip out these paces still,
Yes.
and I'm 5 years into this running journey, and these are my paces right now. So that's how I can tell you. But yeah, it's a lot of it. The treadmill offers a lot of things too that we've talked about. Safety.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest one. In my neighborhood, I feel very safe. It's just the dogs. Like, I don't feel super safe about the dogs. And I'm really scared that I live by a lot of farms, and that's why I'm talking about the dogs. There's farm dogs, and I know that they're doing their job of protecting their homes, but I'm
Well, not too
scared.
well. A little
Yeah, exactly.
whole street.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm being too loud. Okay, I'm so sorry. Ooh, my boss. Um, you guys, I got some really funny questions, so I'm trying to think of how to stay motivated. This one we got how to lose weight while running and increases appetite. I definitely, whoever asked that, I think um, running for weight loss is amazing. I think that if you have a lot of actual specific questions, even just do a consult with a dietitian or shoot someone a message so they could give you some information. I know the one thing I would say is I would never marathon train while
No.
trying to lose weight, unless you are working with someone specifically, just because the marathon is so physically demanding, and it's not a place for a calorie deficit. And I feel like I've learned that time and time again. When I've had any kind of calorie deficit, you'll just come out on the other end just feeling like garbage. I can't imagine doing a 2-hour run in a calorie deficit. So that is something. And then how do you deal with your period lining up race day? Oh my gosh, story of my life.
That'll probably be me again. I my period, and it's like this time of the week, so I'm like, let
I
it come.
know.
Hey,
Yeah, I think that's like something. I don't know if I have any good advice for that. I feel for you. It is something that it's like, if whatever your comfort level is, I know that there's like, even if you don't want to wear like a tampon or something, you go wear like you can wear period underwear or something like that. I have seen a lot more of that lately, and I do know that there's active wear. So I mean, I guess playing around with something like that would be really helpful. But otherwise, I don't really know. It's just more one of those things where I'm so sorry. We will have to suffer through it. I think that's going to be me on Sunday, to be honest with you. And yeah, so I honestly, I'm so much more concerned about like my digestive system that day, that it's like, oh, one more thing. I feel like I'm always bloated on race day anyway, because you're like so carved up. So it's like, I guess I'll just look somewhat pregnant today. Cool.
just be breathing on top of it all.
Exactly. Yeah. The one thing I'm like, it just has to keep my cravings in check so that it's not all sweets. So I actually get some good carbs. But yeah, I feel like that's actually really common for people. I think maybe also because of stress. I think because stress can cause your cycle to be on, certain, like it can delay your cycle and things like that. So I bet that stress actually has a lot to do with why your period could come on on like race day, because you're probably like going into taper week, you're stressed, and then you start to not be as stressed. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I am not a doctor, if you cannot tell. I like these questions. How do I have hair extensions, and how do I keep my lashes clean? Oh my
Let's hear it.
gosh.
Let me hear it.
I don't have hair extensions. I cannot imagine running this distance with hair extensions because I get so sweaty, and I'm the queen of having tangled hair. So, no hair extensions, but for anybody who does and you want to give our other mamas some advice, that would be great. Yeah, no, hair extensions are so common in Utah, so people are paying a very hefty price for those. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to grow my hair out. And then lashes clean while running. These are really, I like those. They're not very deep questions. But I love talking about it. No, I just honestly shower. Just you gotta, and you can use like a little brush. But I get my, I mean, I do my lashes myself, and I know you do too, Shanna. So yeah, it's too hard to maintain having actual extensions while when you're running at this distance. I mean, for me, anyways, and anybody else who does, huh?
Like, it's pricey, like to get them refilled and stuff. Like it's just, and it's,
Yeah,
I mean, like I don't have like an hour and a half to 2 hours plus to get my eyelashes done.
I
I
know.
do that for my hair, so
Same. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I put into also here's some. Shanna, do you have a favorite meal of all time, or what's your most memorable meal of all time?
my most memorable favorite meal. I don't know, a favorite meal of all time. I'm like a either a sushi fanatic where like
Mm.
so me and my husband were just joking around about this. We just had our anniversary and we were like, remember that time when we were kidless and we literally would do all you can eat sushi like every other weekend?
Oh,
We literally did it every other weekend. It was so
that's
bad.
amazing.
But it was my life. Like I loved it. So yeah, like sushi is like a good sushi. Like I love all the
Yes.
fish. I like all of that on top of it. Like yeah, so that's like my go-to. And then like a half rack of ribs. Like I just
Oh yeah.
something that just like fills you up. But that's what I had this weekend. So it was
That
great.
sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, barbecue is so good.
Yes,
So,
love barbecue.
so, so good.
What is your like favorite meal?
Oh, my all-time favorite meal. My go-to meal that I would eat anytime is just like very good spaghetti and meatballs. Like not average, very good. Like yeah, like homemade noodles, all of that. It's just so good. And I love meatballs. I love them. I think they're just, me and balls.
I tried to be mature, but I couldn't.
Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna lie, we have done very well on this. Shannon and I, when we were like the two of us are doing this together, we were I typed her a text and it just said ha 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 like 1,000 times. And I was like, how are we gonna do this? But we've done really well, okay?
That's like a marathoner
Yeah,
though. You like spaghetti and meatballs. Like that is like the
of
go-to meal.
course.
Like
I know it is.
to be made.
I It's so good. I think I I also love, oh my gosh, what else? I love barbecue too. I really do. Like a pulled pork sandwich is so good.
So good.
It sounds so good right now too. My most memorable meal was Matt and I, we went to this really fancy winery one time, and it was my first time trying caviar, and they gave it
Oh,
to us in like a box, but it was like we had this whole experience, like all these courses and stuff, and it was the day before our wedding, and it was just like this really nice moment. That was my most memorable meal itself. I actually don't remember most of the food that they served, but I know that I had a good time. I think I just drooled.
but you remember the wine.
Remember the wine. Maybe that's why I don't remember the meal.
Caviar is
Oh
so
my
good.
gosh.
That would be like, oh, that sounds amazing.
So good. It was my first experience, and then I remember, like, some people, they're like, oh, I don't like it because it's too salty, and I'm like, they served it to me in a box on a Pringle type of chip. I'm fine with that. Maybe I just like the Pringle. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see what else. What is your guilty pleasure TV?
Gosh. I mean, it's not like super raunchy. It's just The Bachelorette. Like
I knew you.
I guess
Yeah.
like back in the day, it was like One Tree Hill. It was like things like that.
Yes.
90210. I used to watch that. I think it's
Yeah.
sort of getting back into it, but yeah, like reality TV shows, like
Mm-hmm.
the trashy stuff I wouldn't watch in front of my kids. That's like stuff I watch like if I'm running a treadmill run or if I'm like by myself and my kid one of my kids is napping, I'll turn it on and hear while I'm folding laundry.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I hate drama, but I love other people's drama. So
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Do
you
you
do this too.
Oh my gosh, mine is like literally all trash TV. Well, I feel like everything that I watch is just a guilty pleasure because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you watch that?" Um, Apparently, Law and Order. No, I'm just kidding. That's like my focus right now. I'm just kidding. There's just so many seasons, so it's like great background noise to have on while I'm doing my chores. Let's see. I love Housewives. I'm a big reality person. My guilty pleasure this year was Love Island. It sucked me in like nothing I've ever seen before. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. Is she Wonder Woman? Oh my goodness, that is insane. She's so cute. She's adorable. Um, yeah, I love like I think Love Island was probably my guiltiest pleasure. I just couldn't believe how much I was sucked. I mean, that like at 7 p.m. I'd put the kids down and it would say new episode available and I would book it
Like,
downstairs and watch it. Yeah, like as if I mean, it like took over my life. It was like all I was thinking about. I was like, I wonder, is this person going to find out about this? It was crazy.
that's
But
so
anyway. Let's see. These are our hot seat questions, you guys. That's why they're not running really. um, what is a crazy memory that you look back on?
Ooh, a crazy memory that I look back on. Honestly, training for my first marathon, like
Yeah.
it still is like the craziest memory I have. Like it's just like the fact that I did that with 6 kids. I even look at it too, like my
Mhm.
littlest, she wasn't even, no, she was 2. She just barely turned 2. It's just crazy to think that like I got through that first block. Like there were so
Yeah.
many, I will never forget the first workout my coach sent me, and I was like 17 miles on a one.
Oh.
I'm like, did he forget that I'm a mom to 6 kids? Like,
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, like, this is wild. Like, this is why I never marathon trained, because it's so crazy. And that's not like normal, you guys. Like, that's not for everybody. But it is not uncommon in marathon training to see crazy workouts like that on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Mhm.
And the more I talked to marathoners, they were like, yeah, what did you expect? I was like, I don't know what I expected when I signed up for it. Not 17 miles on a Tuesday.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's so true. And he does give workouts like that. You're like, wait a second, what just happened? Yeah, it's so true. That is crazy. And also just doing it with 6 kids. Like I think that's what's so fascinating about you is just because I think the most common question is how do you get it done? Having the 6 kids, but it's that you have support. Like, I
Yeah,
think your husband plays a huge part in that, shout out to your husband.
yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Your crazy memory you look back on. I feel like
Oh
that's
my gosh.
such a broad question. And like my mind,
It is.
do I go to like an extreme emotional one, or do I go to a happy
I
one? How deep are we getting?
know. Are we having a therapy session or are we just recording the podcast right now? Um Mine is so easy. I'm not gonna lie. Mine is so easy to think about because it was when I couldn't figure out why I couldn't run anymore, and I wasn't running well, and I would run for like 3 miles at a time and be very out of breath, and I had stomach pain, and it just turned out that I was 22 weeks pregnant. That good old time.
I feel like you need to expand on that more, because I don't think, do our audience even know that that happened to you in your first pregnancy?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so the reason whenever anybody's like, "Oh, I have this crazy memory," I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't." Just kidding. I am. I mean, there's people that have gone longer in pregnancy without knowing, but no,
Crazy.
yeah, so I was um it was November of 2019. And I just couldn't figure out why I didn't feel good. And I was so tired. I didn't feel bad actually. I was just really, really tired and my feet were a little swollen. I couldn't fit into my Birkenstocks anymore and I just couldn't really run. So I had taken up a lot of walking and I would try to run. I was doing like 3 miles at a time on a treadmill and I was like, this is so weird. I just ran a marathon like not that long ago. And I just couldn't figure out what was going on. But I was a paramedic, and as paramedics, we wear button pants. So those fit fine. And I just booked a trip to Hawaii. So I was like, I want to lose these extra 5 pounds I've been carrying. This is so weird. And then I kept joking one time. Oh, because I kept eating a ton of Panda Express. And I sat down and I ate a whole box of Pop Tarts. And then I went hiking one time. I mean, the Pop Tarts thing was like, I was doing that all the time, but I went hiking one time and I brought Panda Express on the hike with me, like an 11-mile hike. Like it wasn't necessary and very salty, but like not necessary. And so I kept joking, maybe I'm pregnant, maybe I'm pregnant. And it turns out I was very pregnant. I was 22 weeks and 3 days at the time. And, yeah, so I just didn't know. It's in Vegas, it's like 110 degrees, 115 degrees in the summer, and I was riding in an ambulance, so like a lot of symptoms you can just write off as heat related. And I was working like all the time, and there was no like morning sickness, none of that. Like I would just nap really hard, but at the time I was a pretty good napper. I had no kids. And so, yeah, it was crazy. I remember laying there and she was like, oh my gosh, your baby boy is so cute. And I was like, my boy? No, I think you're looking at a cyst. And I was like, I don't think that. She was like, no, that's your baby. And she was like, but it was like 9 p.m. Like I was obviously having a crisis and she's just talking to me anyway. Not that it was her fault. It was definitely my fault for not knowing. So anyway, yeah. So that's my craziest memory. And it's just so funny because I kept joking for like 2 weeks that I was pregnant. I was like, haha, I'm pregnant. And I was very, so yeah, with my daughter, I knew like the second. I was like, nobody touch anything. I'm pregnant.
It's so
Yeah.
crazy. I always think about that with people. I'm like, how does anybody go that long? There's no way.
Ugh.
People like give birth and they're like, didn't know they were pregnant. I'm like,
Yes.
how does that happen?
How?
But,
I
I mean,
know.
apparently.
You know what's so funny is I ran a call on a girl that was 20, she was 22 weeks pregnant, and I walked her to the bathroom once we picked her up. We did not bring her to like a OB hospital because she's just said she had a stomach ache. She kind of seemed like she was faking it, like whatever. It's really early in the morning. And so I walked her to the bathroom and I kept being like, I think you just have to poop. I think you have to poop. And she had her baby in the toilet and it was at 22 weeks. And we were all like, how do you not know? How do you not know? And then looking back at that time, I was 17 weeks pregnant.
Oh
And I was all like, how do you not know? Yeah. Do you know how many people I was like, you need to make fun of me for that? You need to make fun of me for that. But her baby was okay. I think.
wow.
I don't remember. At the time, I don't know. We transferred care. But
Yeah.
anyway, crazy. And so after that, I was like, this is how people do not know. It's because they are not paying attention.
That is wild. That's so
Yeah.
wild.
So, yeah. Let's see. I think that's a great hot seat question.
That's a really great hot seat question. They just learned a lot about you.
Yeah. It's like I feel like sometimes after talking to me people are like, "Is she okay?"
Oh, it's exciting. It's fun. It's fun to meet somebody that's, to me, normal. So
True. Okay. Thanks for that. Oh my gosh.
I just kidding.
Oh my god. That's essentially how we became friends. If anybody's this is actually a question I get is how long have we been friends for and how did we become friends? And it was pretty much exactly that. It was that we were running together on a run and I'm pretty sure she made fun of me for something and I made fun of her for something. And then that was that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like we were on a group run and you would
Mm-hmm.
like you talked and asked questions as much as I did. And I was like, this is really nice. Like this feels really
Yeah.
fun and actually like can hold a conversation. It was like I was like a match made in heaven. I was like,
It
hey,
really,
like
yeah.
we should exchange numbers. Hey, we should meet up for a run. And then we were like, running like 3 times a week together. And I was like, I really like this girl.
Yeah,
It's
it was
fun.
the best.
Like friendships in adulthood are like
Mhm.
so crazy. Like you just like find
Yeah.
this and you're like, I really like this human and we're going to be friends.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like, oh yeah, we could spend time together. Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because like as moms, it's like you're always looking for a village, right? You like at least one additional person that could just, and not even help, but just like someone that you can talk to. And so I feel like, and in St. George, there's, it's like, I feel like everybody's searching for that all the time, because
Yeah.
like parks, you can like, you can go to a park at any time, no matter what the temperature is, and people will be there.
Yes.
And, everybody's looking for that all the time, but sometimes it's hard because you'll have different parenting styles or like, things like that. And so when you finally find a friend, you like, I like, for us, it was just like, oh my gosh, finally someone we can talk about running together. We both have big goals. Like we have kids the same age. Like that was huge, And yeah, it was just so fun. And like I love how big your family is. It just like, I don't know, it fills my heart. So whenever like all of our kids are playing together, and yeah, just insanity. Although we did send some people home from the park the other day.
Yeah. Those are back to it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All of our boys were playing and they were shouting something, and these people literally stood up and left.
They're
Yeah.
like, out. These people are going to influence our children for the bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, do you have any other hot seat questions?
I don't think so. I think that might be all of them. You see her?
Hi.
Yeah.
You are just too cute. Are you still dressed up? Yes, you are. Cute.
Was that all the ones from Whitney too?
Whitney, actually, let me see. Let's
wonder
see what else we've got.
You might have to cut us off halfway.
I know, right?
You guys
Let's
talked
see.
a lot longer than I expected. I'm just kidding.
I know. Honestly, this would not be that unusual for us.
We need Whitney. This is why we need Whitney. Whitney, you keep us on track. I don't know what.
Whitney does.
Whitney keeps us on track, and she's so organized. You guys, like, she is seriously the glue to this podcast. Like,
yeah.
Does she's a wealth of information. She is awesome. Like,
yeah, we
shout
out Whitney.
We
just we wouldn't have even, honestly, it was so crazy because you know how sometimes you'll have an idea and you're like, oh, how am I going to make this come to life? And then you meet someone like Whitney and they just like, she made this whole thing come to life, and so we're just so grateful for that. And yeah, I think, yeah, we could not have lucked out more, honestly, with having her. Let's see the questions that she sent. I feel like you and I are very long-winded for these. But here, I can think. Oh, this one has the Guilty Pleasure TV show too. Ooh, if you could swap lives with anyone for a day, who would it be?
My husband, which is good.
It's gonna say the same thing. Yeah, I literally.
What it would be like to be on that side.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna be like, my husband works 2.5 hours away, so even if I was like, hey, you need to come home, he still would drive 2.5 hours. Do you know how many podcasts I could listen to?
It's so true. Your Law and Order, your crime podcast.
I know. Oh my gosh. If you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Oh, I had to think about this one.
I know, me too. I'm like in such a Disney phase right now because the kids, like, Moana. I don't know.
I don't even know what I would say for that one. Like, for the longest time, I don't know if you've seen the movie Freedom Writer. That was like one of my favorite movies of all time. But I don't know if I could watch that like over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
mundane.
I like rewatching TV shows. So I'm TV show person across the board. Like even with movies, if we pause them like 40 minutes in, regroup, I'm good. But yeah, I definitely like TV shows. Let's see. If you could live in any time period, past or future, which would it be?
Ooh, I think mine would be like 1950s. I don't know why. Like, I just like, I know it sounds crazy. Well, maybe not because it's like how women were treated.
I don't think we could have voted.
I don't know. Yeah, I probably would be like the rebellion one too, like the one that like was. They're like, oh, she's risky, or oh, she's so
Oh, yeah.
she shouldn't say, you know. Maybe
Yeah.
I think I just like the time era, the history of like that era. Like it's really fascinating
Yeah.
to me. Or even like
Yeah.
World War II like time frame. Like I don't know why I'm like so okay.
So you like learning about those time periods?
Yeah, like that time
Yes,
period.
me too.
Yeah. It's more like the
Yeah.
drawing. Like I would love to sit there and like people watch and just like
Yeah.
be there first person, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe not so much.
Yeah. Just be like have footage of it and learn about it. Yeah.
This is such a big
Yeah.
historical moment.
I wouldn't survive in any other time period than we are in right now. Like in the future, I will not survive because the technology will outsmart me and it'll be like, oh no, she is not well. She talks too much. And yeah, and then is that funny? And then anything in the past, she's like, she does talk too much. Then anything in the past, I don't know. I just watched Moana 2 and that's set in the. Can you tell that Moana's on my mind? It was a cute movie. I'd be good with that time period, you know, just sailing on boats, opening up coconuts, singing here and there. Yeah. I don't know. I'd be good with that time. It's 2,000 years ago or whatever when they're discovering things. Although, I don't know. I wouldn't be very good at sailing.
Yeah.
But I could learn.
Yeah.
I'd be like the old man gardener in the movie. The grumpy, like that's me. That is me on a daily basis, just being grumpy about things.
Be the chicken. Where are we now? What are we doing to eat again? What's its name? What its name?
Hey, it's just a coconut on its head. Oh my god, so funny. Oh, that is so funny.
90% of my day of how I act.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. I feel like this has been a very good getting to know us at a better level. I hope whoever's listening to this has an hour and 20-minute run that they were able to listen to this for.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're recording this on December 3rd and it is Shanna's birthday today. She is turning 25 with her 6 kids.
Don't do the math because it doesn't math. Or math to like a teenage pregnancy.
Oh my gosh.
You ever see when people ask that? Like every time they're like, you have 6 kids, how old are you? I was like, how old do you think I am? I had 12. Well, okay, well, I had a child at 12. That's what you think. So.
Oh my gosh. That would be like my neighbors. Why don't you talking about them on my mind all the time? I'm so sorry for whoever's still listening to that. Oh my gosh. They're just so young with so many kids.
Yes.
I'm so worried about them. Oh my god. Winnie's gonna be like, Olivia, lay off of that topic. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. Well, is this it?
I think so. I think that's all of our questions for today, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully the quality of the sound is good.
Yes.
I made me laugh like a ton more, but maybe that might be better on the audio side. So
Yeah. I know, seriously. Yeah, we are working on anybody who has an issue with the audio, we're working on it. We're still in the learning phase. So it's for now it's about content quality. And we're working on our audio quality. So yeah. Well, thank you for listening. And we hope you have the best week ever. I don't know when this will be released, but we'll probably be honing in on the Christmas festivities at that point. So, and we'll probably be done with our marathon at that point.
yeah, hopefully we'll come back with some shiny new PRs.
Woo! Yeah. And if not, just very shiny tears.
Oh,
I'm just
sad.
kidding. I'm just kidding. Progress is not linear. I know. Oh, I'm just kidding. I actually do think I think it's gonna be a big PR Sunday for both of us, to be honest. So
It's gonna be a good day.
yeah. Or even a small.
Manifesting it. Say it out loud.
Yep, we are saying it out loud. It's gonna happen. I know. Well, we're wishing you good luck for your travel day. Shanna's going with all of her kids and her husband, so she has a big, that's a pretty big feat to navigate the airport with all those kids and everything. But it's gonna go great. I'm actually really excited for you because they are just so fun. So I love traveling with them. So yeah, with little ones, but it's gonna be fun.
Well, thanks
I
you
don't know how
guys
to
for
end this.
tuning in. I guess we'll just end this here, but have a good holiday whenever this airs.
Yes.
We'll have some updates from this point forward when we come back on our next episode. Hopefully the four of us. But yeah, happy holidays, everybody, and enjoy the rest of 2024 before we go into 2024.
Ooh, yeah. Happy holidays. And well, yes, we hope that you have I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm sorry. I'm from the Midwest. Our goodbyes are a little bit longer than the average person, so I'll cut it there. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.